evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. The coronavirus continues to spread around the world. Its impact now enough to make the World Health Organization declare it a global pandemic. The U.S. continues to combat the virus. Health officials are asking communities, companies, and even sports teams to play their part. Harvey Weinstein is sentenced to 23 years in prison. Over 100 women accused the disgraced film producer of sexual misconduct. Joe Biden pulls ahead after yesterday's primary voting. He saw wins in Mississippi, Missouri, and most importantly, Michigan. And a Boston flower exhibit opens despite a state of emergency. The World Health Organization today declaring the Wuhan coronavirus a global pandemic. Its impact continues to be felt around the world, with 196 deaths in Italy today alone.
After weeks of holding its tongue, the World Health Organization said on Wednesday the Wuhan coronavirus is a global pandemic. This means they now recognize it as a worldwide problem.
We're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity.
The virus seems to be a higher risk for older people and those with pre-existing conditions. Its mortality rate is also high.
It is 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu.
It's now in over 100 countries and has infected tens of thousands. Indonesia, Lebanon, Panama, Ireland, and Belgium reporting their first deaths on Wednesday. Belgium is also testing 3,000 people on an Italian cruise liner.
We know that the cruise ships are among the places where the virus can expand.
Italy is among the worst affected countries outside of China. The north of the country, home to many Chinese workers, has been hit hard over the last week. On Monday, the entire country was locked down.
The government is not close to the possibility of greater restrictive measures.
Limiting the impact in the economy is another challenge. Many are now working from home, large gatherings have been cancelled, and travel is a big no-no. Many countries are responding with economic measures. Britain today cutting interest rates and announcing a $40 billion stimulus package.
And I will do whatever it takes to support the economy.
But the plans did little to spur global markets. Britain, Australia, and Japan's markets all falling. U.S. markets suffered the worst, with the Dow Jones losing almost 6% and the S&P 500 and Nasdaq almost 5% each. All this as the world looks forward with uncertainty.
U.S. health officials are also working to contain the coronavirus. They're calling on companies, sports teams, and communities to help out.
The coronavirus is on the rise in the United States, and some of the hardest hit communities are taking dramatic action to stop it, like the city of New Rochelle, about 25 miles north of New York City. A 1-mile area inside the city is under containment starting Thursday. It's seen more than 100 virus cases so far.
We hope and expect that the measures that have been put in place, thanks to the leadership of the governor, will be helpful in mitigating the spread of the virus and helping make sure that especially we protect the most vulnerable populations.
Likewise, Washington State is also taking steps to safeguard its at-risk residents, especially ones inside nursing homes.
People are caring for their loved ones and encouraging senior citizens and those with compromised health to really question whether you should go out more than is absolutely necessary right now.
Nursing homes and assisted living facilities across the state have been instructed to limit visitors. The virus has already spread to 11 of the facilities following the initial outbreak at Life Care Center in Kirkland. Major corporations are also doing their part to help. In a sweeping action, Google is sending its North American employees home, recommending that they work remotely until at least April 10th. And on the entertainment front, the NBA might soon be playing their game sans audience. Anthony Fauci, head of infectious diseases at the National Institutes of Health, recommended on Wednesday that the National Basketball Association play their games without a crowd.
We would recommend that there not be large crowds. If that means not having any people in the audience when the NBA plays, so be it.
Federal and state officials are closely monitoring the virus's progression.
New York is one of the hardest hit areas in the U.S. and healthcare staff are stretched. In a boost for the area, Northwell Health can now use a semi-automatic testing system. This will allow it to process virus tests much faster.
New York healthcare system, Northwell Health, announced on Wednesday they are now able to start semi-automated coronavirus testing at its lab. They received federal approval late last week to move from manual testing to semi-automated testing. It's expected to ease up some pressure the healthcare staff has experienced since the outbreak reached the state.
It still requires each individual patient sample to be loaded on a cartridge, but obviously once they're loaded, the tech can go back and start loading other ones so it can go faster. We can also train more techs faster to do that type of testing.
Before the automated tests, the lab could only process around 90 tests per day, but he says that now they hope to conduct a few hundred tests per day. Disease experts say boosting testing is crucial to assessing the scope of the U.S. outbreak and identifying where it is spreading most rapidly.
Until we reach the point where there's enough testing that anybody who has flu-like symptoms coming in could get tested for this virus, just like we test for flu and RSV and rhinovirus and all the other viruses, we are not going to be satisfied that we have enough testing capacity. So we're going to keep going until we reach that point.
Two of the nation's largest diagnostic companies, Laboratory Corporation of America Holdings and Quest Diagnostics Incorporated, are expected to expand their testing capacity beginning this week.
There are currently over 200 confirmed cases in New York State. And in other news, disgraced entertainment producer Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison today. He was found guilty of sexually assaulting a former production assistant and an aspiring actress.
The judge sent a message today that this type of behavior is something that any potential offender is going to have to consider. The judge.
More than 100 women have accused Weinstein of sexual misconduct stretching back decades. Some Hollywood actresses praised the verdict online, saying they're happy with the result. And in other news, Joe Biden is the new Democratic frontrunner after 6 states voted yesterday. He pulled off a convincing win in Michigan, securing 72 delegates.
Joe Biden building on his Super Tuesday dominance, winning Mississippi, Missouri, and the big prize of the night, Michigan.
Just over a week ago, many of the pundits declared that this candidacy was dead. Now we're very much alive.
Michigan is a key Midwestern swing state. President Trump won in 2016. Then in 2018, a blue wave swept over the state. Now it's considered to be a bellwether of where blue-collar white and African-American voters lean.
We are solidly purple, and that's why no one should ever take Michigan for granted.
The Great Lakes state helping the former vice president pad his delegate lead while making the case he is the candidate to beat.
This campaign is taking off, and I believe we're going to do well from this point on.
The results, a blow to Bernie Sanders, who won Michigan's primary 4 years ago and hoped to kick off a comeback.
We need to win every state in the country.
But the coronavirus crisis threatened to upstage Super Tuesday Part 2. Election workers sorted ballots wearing gloves, and both candidates canceled their planned rallies with supporters.
The last thing in the world we will ever want to do is put anybody in danger.
As the novel coronavirus impacts the United States, both campaigns are taking action and say they can lead in times of crisis as commander-in-chief.
This whole coronavirus issue is a matter of presidential leadership.
But now Sanders is also trying to prove to the public his campaign has a future.
And Sanders has won North Dakota, giving him his first win in the 6 states that voted. And Sanders responds after his losses in yesterday's primary voting. He reassured his base that he'll continue his campaign.
While Joe Biden continues to do very well with older Americans, especially those people over 65, our campaign continues to win the vast majority of the votes of younger people.
Sanders is set to debate Biden this weekend. He says he hopes his performance can overcome his recent losses. Sanders lost Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, and Idaho to Biden, but he won North Dakota. We're still waiting on final results from Washington State. And today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo highlighted several examples of human rights violations in other countries. One of them is China's use of surveillance technology to monitor anyone that opposes it.
While announcing the release of an annual human rights report, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo criticized China's surveillance system and what he called the stain of the century.
In China, the Chinese Communist Party uses high-tech surveillance systems to monitor potential dissidents. It's imprisoning religious minorities in internment camps. The CCP's records in Xinjiang is the stain of the century.
The regime has been detaining Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang's detention camps, and its surveillance systems have directly aided the CCP in its persecution by tracking people. Despite the criticism, one Chinese company says it's taken facial recognition a step further. It can identify people even when wearing a mask.
In the past, we had to take off our masks to use facial recognition to go through entrances, arrive at work, and go through customs or other channels.
He said people risk contaminating others by taking off their masks. So he said they started working on this shortly after the coronavirus broke out. This makes it much easier to identify people, and Huang Li said he expects his technology to spread internationally. But he said there's a problem.
There is one situation, however, which remains challenging for us. That is when someone wears both a mask and sunglasses. In this situation, all of the key facial information is lost.
Lee said that makes it harder to track people, but apparently the police are already using it.
Hundreds are arrested as officials take down part of a powerful drug trafficking cartel. Drug Enforcement Agency officials made raids in several states today as part of Project Python. More than 250 people were taken into custody, and about 1,200 pounds of drugs were confiscated. Agents also seized more than $1.7 million in cash and assets. The DEA says it's been targeting the Jalisco New Generation cartel's activity for 6 months, with authorities arresting more than 700 people and seizing over 40,000 pounds of narcotics. Officials say the cartel brought vast amounts of deadly drugs into the U.S. And the Supreme Court today ruled that the Trump administration can continue enforcing its Remain in Mexico policy. The measure requires asylum applicants to wait in Mexico for their U.S. court hearings. The order overturns a lower court decision that would have blocked the policy, at least for people arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona and California. The High Court action comes one day before the lower court order would have taken effect. Instead, the policy, known formally as Migrant Protection Protocols, will remain in force while a lawsuit challenging it plays out in the courts. And up next, the first city to go under lockdown in China amid the coronavirus outbreak issued an announcement that the lockdown would be lifted. But a day later, another announcement canceling the one from the day before. The lockdown will remain. Find out why when we return.
Every once in a while, something comes along so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
And now to the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. Conflicting reports on whether or not a city's lockdown will be lifted. Our reporter Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
A city in Hubei province announced on Tuesday the city lockdown will be revoked in the coming days, and all areas, everything will go back to normal. But one day later, on Wednesday, the city announced it would cancel its announcement from the day before. The lockdown will not be lifted, but rather will continue in an effort to battle the coronavirus. This city of Qianjiang is 96 miles away from Wuhan. Qianjiang is the first city in Hubei province that was put onto lockdown even earlier than Wuhan. On Tuesday, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, visited Wuhan. Some netizens are linking the lockdown hoax of Qianjiang to this visit, asking, was it a staged show for yesterday, March 10th? This is not the first time. On February 24th, Wuhan announced it would loosen the regulations for leaving Wuhan, but 3 hours later, the announcement was canceled. On the day of Xi Jinping's visit, the Epidemic Prevention and Council headquarters in Hubei province issued an announcement to remove lockdown in the province step by step. One car factory is allowed to resume work in Wuhan. This factory employs 1,800 people. Hubei Airport Company started to resume work on the day of Xi Jinping's visit. It is not clear when its planes will fly again. So here is a summary of what happened around the time of Xi Jinping's visit to Wuhan. The last temporary hospital was announced closed. The first city in Hubei province on lockdown had it officially revoked. The first factory to resume work was announced. The Hubei Airport Company started to reopen its operations. Hubei province said it will cancel its lockdown of the whole province step by step. On the other hand, on social media, reports of outbreaks in some residential blocks in Wuhan calls for help from the families of discharged patients who are still not well, and sky-high prices of food. What will come of all this? We are following the situation in China and will keep you updated.
China's first doctor to blow the whistle on the coronavirus has emerged. In an online interview that was quickly deleted, she recounts how she discovered the virus and was censored by authorities. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
China's first whistleblower about the coronavirus broke her silence again after seeing her co-workers die from the infection. In an interview with a Chinese magazine, Dr. Ai Fun recounts how she first discovered the virus and was then censored. The magazine published the report the same day Chinese leader Xi Jinping visited Wuhan, March 10th. The report was scrubbed within several hours, but Chinese netizens are fighting to preserve it by converting the report into different languages, including into emojis, Morse code, and Elvish. Ai heads the emergency care unit at Wuhan Central Hospital. She said she took the photo of this diagnostic report on December 30th. The report said the patient tested positive for a SARS-like coronavirus. She sent the photo to her co-workers, and by night, the photo had spread throughout Wuhan's medical circles. Another whistleblower of the coronavirus, Dr. Li Wenliang, also shared the photo. He was reprimanded for supposedly spreading rumors and later died of the coronavirus. The next day, Ai was reprimanded by supervisors in the hospital where she worked. Management said she was spreading rumors and that as a medical professional it was wrong. They ordered her not to disclose anything about the disease, not even to her husband. Ai said all she could do was remind her co-workers in the same unit to wear protective gear, contrary to Chinese authorities, who said there wasn't any human-to-human transmission. Some doctors wanted to wear protective gear, but authorities in the hospital wouldn't allow it, saying it would create panic. Ai told her co-workers to wear protective gear under their white coats. Other medics who didn't know the situation went on with their lives as usual. But this hospital, the largest first-class hospital in Wuhan, paid a price for its lack of transparency. Right now, it has one of the most infected staff among Wuhan hospitals. 4 doctors have died, and over 200 people are infected, including 3 vice presidents and many department chiefs. Ai is full of regret. She said, quote, "If I had known that it would get this bad, I wouldn't have cared at all about being punished. I would have told everyone I could, everywhere." Reporting from New York, Juliet Song, NTD News.
Still to come, a flower and garden show opens in Boston despite a state of emergency. That and more after the break.
We are being censored.
America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interests, and we never will be. The Epoch Times is a non-partisan media. That means we don't stand for any political party. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
In Boston, a flower and garden show is opening to the public, even though Massachusetts is under a state of emergency.
Massachusetts, officially in a state of emergency in response to the coronavirus spreading. 92 people in the state are infected or presumed to be infected. Boston Seaport World Trade Center's flower exhibit, however, is going ahead.
It's great. We just opened a little while ago, and there are tons of people here. Some people who came from bus groups from far away, others who are local, and there's a lot of smiles on people's faces.
People attending the Boston Flower Show seem to share the same sentiment and seem more interested and inspired by the flowers laid out than COVID-19.
It's beautiful. Lots of interesting plants and flowers, and getting a lot of gardening ideas for the spring.
It is absolutely spectacular. Lots of beautiful, beautiful spring flowers, lots of beautiful gardens, and everyone should be here.
But attendees are still exercising caution.
I'm just keeping my hands to myself and making sure with my hand sanitizer. So, no problem.
The show's director said hand sanitizing stations have been placed in several areas of the building and staff are disinfecting surfaces regularly. The show is open until March 15th.
A new skyscraper with a glass-bottom observation deck is offering a unique view of the Big Apple, 1,100 feet straight down.
Viewers with a fear of heights may want to look away or at least squint hard and attempt not to vomit, because this is the highest outdoor observation deck in the Western Hemisphere, and it is now open for business in the Big Apple. At 1,100 feet and 100 floors up, Edge at Hudson Yards offers panoramic views of Manhattan's skyline, as well as, brace yourself, crystal clear views straight down through a glass bottom floor. And if that's not extreme enough, the surrounding glass panels are angled outward to give visitors the feeling they're leaning out over the city. Yikes. If you like your adventures located safe and sound on the ground, an eye-opening experience awaits you in Thailand. The Anantara Golden Triangle Elephant Camp and Resort allows guests to spend the night cozied up right next to rescued wild elephants. They call the accommodations Jungle Bubbles. Each air-conditioned dome has a king-size bed and a washroom with a shower, and you can't beat the views. But before you start packing your trunks, know this: the Bubbles rent for roughly $560 a night. Not exactly peanuts, but at least it's going to a good cause. The Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation cares for about 24 of the rescued animals and aims to improve the lives of captive elephants.
Up next, an award-winning baker in Paris tells NTD how he stays ahead of the competition. After the break.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of Spygate, the true story of collusion? Or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border? Or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life? Then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepoch.com and try it yourself for a full month for just $1. You'll absolutely love it.
Paris City gourmets have rewarded the best baguette maker in France's capital. Our France correspondent David Vives met with the bread-making champions to learn more about their creations.
Julian and his team have become a neighborhood sensation after the bakers received the award for the best baguette in Paris.
Congratulations, you deserve that award.
Competition drew 210 different so-called traditional baguettes. Baking a perfect baguette doesn't appear to be an easy task. We tried to get baker Taib Sahal to tell us his secret recipe. A baguette is just wheat, salt, and water. But it seems there's a particular ingredient that makes the bread look and taste so good. See how the interior is so soft and smooth. When I began, it was hard. Hard to wake up when everybody else goes to bed, to walk in the deserted streets. Now I see it differently. I watch the sun rising every day, which is great. Julian grew up in a family full of bakers, and he now helps the tradition to live on, ever since his grandfather opened his first bakery in 1985. As a team, we share the good moments and the bad. The award is great for us. Being a Parisian baker, it's about being a part of a family. We know almost all our customers. The award of Best Baguette also means Julian and his team will provide at least 15 fresh baguettes every day for the French president and government. But it seems that the president will have to wait his turn, just like everybody else. It's great to provide for the president, but we have to serve our customers first. He will have to wait in the queue. It seems there really is a secret behind every great recipe. You have to be happy with your work and work hard, because in the end, if you appreciate what you do, the customer will appreciate it as well. But for this baker, who's a surprising fan of New York City sports, there's only one thing that would make him completely happy. I'm following the NBA championship closely. I hope the Knicks will get better scores. You gotta get the champion ring, guys. So if the Knicks want fresh baguettes, they know who to call. David Vives, NTD News.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.